Welcome back to my YouTube channel and to my train room. If you are watching last week, you will have seen me build a timber boardwalk for the Centerville passenger station. This week I'm going to continue detailing the surrounding area. So without wasting any more time, let's dive right in. Well, now that the building is situated, I need to get the driveway and landscape around it. I've masked off the edge of my building so that I don't get plaster splashed all over it, and I'm going to dampen down the wood so that the plaster will stick to it better. Normally I would do this with a spray bottle, but I forgot to get it out until after I'd already mixed the plaster, and I only have a couple of minutes of working time. I didn't bother masking the fascia, but it'll wipe off there fairly easily. And right now I'm just going to put plenty on before I spread it out. I mixed it fairly runny, a lot runnier than I would if I was carving rocks. Well, this is what the site looks like after I've shaved off the top of the plaster. It's not perfect. I'm going to have to touch the edges up with sculptor mould, and if I'd thought about it earlier I'd probably have done the whole thing with sculptor mould anyway, but it's alright, I didn't think about it in time. So I've mixed up a small batch. I didn't put any paint in it this time, I'm just putting it on white. You may notice that I've replaced the masking because I need to be able to see where the top of the step is. All I'm doing now is just filling in the holes. I already had it high enough. I have way more sculptor mould than I need, so this area here I'm just going to make it a little bit uneven because it's flatter than I want it. I'm building it up along the fascia just a little bit because I want to try and experiment. When it's gone hard, I want to see if I can actually sand it smooth. Well, I've let the sculptor mould set up overnight. I've done a little bit of cleaning up here with some fine sandpaper along this fascia and also the ridge that was along the edge of the station footing. The next step is the ground cover in the area, and before I put that on I'm going to paint the sculptor mould and plaster a dark brown just so I don't get any white patches showing through. So let me do that and I'll be right back. Well, unfortunately the paint has bled onto the platform in a few places, so I'm going to have to touch up the stain there. I'll probably have to hit it with some sandpaper first, but that'll be a job for when this paint is all dry. Also, I covered over the white stains on the fascia. It's not quite the right colour brown, but by painting over those white stains it's one less coat of the final colour that I'm going to need. I've now covered all the sculptor mould and plaster with the first layer of ground cover, painted on full strength white glue, and I sprinkled sand over most of it. On the driveway in front of the building I've used ash from my pellet stove because it's a little bit finer My first experiment using the ash was not successful. I'm hoping this is going to be more so. I will know in a few hours. Well, I've just glued my ground cover down using the same procedures as I've shown in several other videos. I used a variety of products: sifted dirt, ash, 4 different textures and colours of ground foam, and a few little stones here just to blend in with the older scenery. Next thing I've got to do is touch up the ballast where I carved it away to make room for the platform, and then I can leave that to dry overnight and come back and finish it up in the morning. Because of the very small confined area that I have to work in, my ballasting technique here is a little bit different from what I normally do. I'm putting just a small amount down, and I'm having to spread it with a much smaller brush. So I'm using this small paintbrush here instead of the larger 2-inch version. And then when I'm ready to glue it down, instead of using the spray bottle, I'm going to be using the eyedropper just to apply a small amount of alcohol and glue just to the area I need. I need some more dirt in that area. I have my eyedroppers, I have the diode glue in here and the alcohol in here. Yes, this takes significantly longer, but for such a small area it's a lot more controllable. About halfway done already. Well, here it is after it has dried overnight, and I'm going to have to call the driveway experiment another failure. I really don't like the way it's turned out, so I'm going to have to recoat it with something else. I'm not quite sure what yet. But before I do that, I'm just going to work on other areas of the detailing. I can come back and fix that later. Now at this end of the walkway, where I have this retaining wall and quite a high drop off, I need some kind of security fencing, because I'm sure the railroad wouldn't want passengers falling to their deaths or getting injured and suing them. So I put together this piece of fence here. It's from Central Valley in my pack of assorted fences. I spliced together 2 sections and I just spray primed it and painted it white. I deliberately left the paint too thin to completely cover the primer, so that it looks like it hasn't been painted recently. And then there's a section here and all of this end that still needs some kind of barrier, and I don't have enough fencing of any one kind to do that length. So what I'm going to do is copy one of the photographs I downloaded, which just had a hedge along there, and that I'm going to make the same way as I do my trees. So let me get organized with that, and I'll check in with you again later. Well, here is what it looks like with the fence and the hedges installed. I've still got to wait for the glue to dry. The white staining will disappear when that happens, and then I can trim off all the long straggly bits. Then it's just a case of detailing the station building with people, benches, luggage and that sort of thing. Well, unfortunately it seems that time has caught up with me. Tomorrow morning I have to leave on another layout building trip. I had hoped to get this project finished before I left, but it's just taken me a little bit longer than I thought it would, and I haven't been able to spend as much time down in the basement as I was hoping. So that's all I'm going to be able to show you this week. When I get back, I will continue the process. So until then, do you hear something? I think there's a train coming. Let's get the camera set up and take a look.